Okay, picture this. A man in his 40s is carried into the emergency room. He's been drinking for 4 days straight, and he's barely eaten a thing, and now he won't wake up. His blood sugar? 34. Dangerously low. But here's the strange part. He's not diabetic, and nobody gave him any insulin.
So, what pushed his sugar down to almost nothing?
That's today's question. And honestly, the answer will rewire how you think about blood sugar. I'm Clara. On this channel, we take one exam question and follow its logic all the way down. Because logic is what makes biochemistry stick, not memorizing. If that's how you like to learn, hit subscribe and come with us.
Alright, let's meet him properly.
41 years old, 4 days of heavy drinking, almost no food. A friend brings him in because he's turned drowsy, hard to wake.
Any medical history?
A long history of alcohol use and one alcohol withdrawal seizure a year ago. No diabetes, no medications. So in the room, he opens his eyes when you speak, but he can't follow commands. Fingerstick glucose, 34 milligrams per deciliter. And his urine, strongly positive for ketones.
Huh. Low sugar and high ketones at the same time.
Hold on to that pair. Both of them come from one single source, and by the end, you'll see exactly why. Okay, here's the question, word for word. Suppression of which of the following is the primary cause of this patient's hypoglycemia? A. Gluconeogenesis. B. Glycogenolysis. C. Insulin clearance. D. Insulin sensitivity. E. Lipolysis.
Pause the video right here. Say your answer out loud before we go on.
The answer is A. The suppressed process is gluconeogenesis, the body building brand new glucose from scratch.
Oh, and I can already feel the trap pulling at me. My gut says B, or honestly, it just says he's starving.
And that gut feeling is exactly what we've got to take apart. Because it's half right and half wrong. And to see the difference, we need a bigger question first. Why does the body fight so hard to keep blood sugar up in the first place? So when food runs short, most of your organs just switch over and burn fat. But 2 of them can't. Your brain burns about 120 grams of glucose a day. It can't use long-chain fat. Fat doesn't cross into the brain well. In long starvation, it learns to burn ketones, but it always needs some glucose.
And the second organ?
The red blood cell. No mitochondria, so glycolysis is all it's got. It runs on glucose, only glucose, for its entire life. So blood sugar isn't a luxury. It's life support for the brain and the red cell. And that's why the moment this man's sugar hit 34, his brain was the first thing to go. He stopped following commands.
So the real question is, what was holding his sugar up right until it crashed?
Right. When you stop eating, the body defends blood sugar in 2 shifts. Shift 1 is glycogen, sugar stored inside the liver. The liver holds about 100 grams of it, and it can hand that sugar straight back to the blood. But it's a small tank. It runs dry after about 12 to 24 hours of fasting.
And this guy hadn't really eaten in 4 days.
Exactly. So his liver glycogen was gone long ago. And that's the hinge of this whole question. His glycogenolysis wasn't suppressed by anything. It was simply already empty. That's why B is so tempting and still wrong.
So once the glycogen's gone, what's left?
Only shift 2, making glucose from scratch. Gluconeogenesis. It was the one thing standing between this man and a coma.
Wait, hold on. Muscle stores glycogen too. Way more of it. Why can't that bail him out?
Ooh, great instinct. And the answer is pure logic. Muscle holds about 400 grams of glycogen. That's 4 times what the liver holds. But muscle is missing one enzyme, glucose 6-phosphatase, and without that enzyme, muscle can break its glycogen down to glucose 6-phosphate. But it can't pull the phosphate off, and glucose with a phosphate stuck to it can't leave the cell.
So the muscle glycogen is locked inside the muscle.
Locked in. It fuels the muscle itself, but it can never raise blood sugar directly. The only way it helps is the long way around. Muscle ships lactate and alanine to the liver, and the liver turns those into glucose by gluconeogenesis.
Which is the very thing that's about to be blocked.
Now you're seeing the shape of it. Every single road out of this crisis runs straight through gluconeogenesis. So let's build gluconeogenesis properly, because you can't see how alcohol breaks it until you see how it runs. It happens mainly in the liver, and it takes 3 raw materials and welds them into new glucose. Lactate from red cells and muscle, alanine from muscle protein, and glycerol, the backbone left behind when fat gets split apart.
3 feedstocks, lactate, alanine, glycerol.
And lactate and alanine both funnel through one molecule. Pyruvate. Pyruvate gets carried up to oxaloacetate, then to PEP up the line, and at the very last step, glucose 6-phosphatase strips off the phosphate, so the finished glucose can finally leave the liver.
Hey, that's the same enzyme the muscle didn't have.
The very same. That's why only the liver and the kidney can actually release new glucose into the blood. Now, hold 2 checkpoints in your mind. Lactate has to become pyruvate, and pyruvate has to become oxaloacetate. Break either one, and the whole factory stalls.
2 checkpoints, got it.
Now, watch what alcohol does to exactly those 2. When the liver clears alcohol, it runs it through 2 enzymes. Alcohol dehydrogenase turns ethanol into acetaldehyde. Then aldehyde dehydrogenase turns acetaldehyde into acetate. And each of those 2 steps does the same small thing. It takes an NAD+ and turns it into NADH.
So drinking basically floods the liver with NADH.
The ratio of NADH to NAD+ shoots up. And that one shift, that's the whole story. Because both of our checkpoints need NAD+ to move forward. Take the NAD+ away, and they run backward. Checkpoint 1. Lactate to pyruvate needs NAD+. But with NADH high, it reverses. Pyruvate gets dragged back to lactate, so the lactate never becomes fuel. It just piles up in the blood. Checkpoint 2. Oxaloacetate. High NADH pulls oxaloacetate over into malate. So even the pyruvate that does exist loses its next stepping stone.
So both doors into gluconeogenesis are jammed.
And glycerol gets caught in the same net. Its entry step needs NAD+2. All 3 feedstocks blocked at the door by one single thing. Too much NADH. And that is why alcohol suppresses gluconeogenesis, not by smashing one enzyme, by choking the shared currency that every entrance depends on. And remember, the glycogen was already empty, so now the sugar has nowhere on earth to come from. It falls 34.
Okay, that explains the low sugar. But the ketones?
Same lever. Watch. The oxaloacetate got pulled away into malate, right? But at the same time, the liver's burning fat, pouring out acetyl-CoA. And acetyl-CoA needs oxaloacetate to enter the energy cycle. No oxaloacetate, so the acetyl-CoA has nowhere to go but into ketones. And the high NADH tips those ketones toward beta-hydroxybutyrate.
So the low sugar and the ketones aren't 2 separate problems.
They're one problem, wearing 2 faces. One redox shift, too much NADH, starves gluconeogenesis and floods the body with ketones. at the very same moment. And that pair has a name, alcoholic ketoacidosis. Okay, now the wrong answers fall in seconds because we built the logic instead of memorizing it. B, glycogenolysis. Tempting. But the glycogen was already gone after 4 days. It wasn't suppressed, it was empty. And the alcohol's damage lands on gluconeogenesis, not on glycogen. C, insulin clearance. If you suppress that, insulin would build up and drop the sugar. But this is a low insulin state. And the strong ketones prove it, because insulin is exactly what switches ketones off. D, insulin sensitivity. Suppress that, and the sugar goes up, not down. Wrong direction. And E, lipolysis. Lipolysis here is turned up, not down. It's where the ketones came from. Suppressing it would lower the ketones, not the sugar.
Every distractor breaks a rule we already proved.
Here's the test that proves we really understand it. Change one thing, make him well-fed, and let him drink heavily, just for one night.
Then his liver glycogen is full.
So glycogenolysis holds his sugar up, and he probably doesn't crash. Even with all that alcohol on board, the alcohol alone was never enough. It always took 2 hits, empty glycogen and blocked gluconeogenesis. And run it in reverse. Give this man a little sugar or some intravenous dextrose, and he corrects fast. Which proves the problem was making glucose, not burning too much of it. So carry 3 rules out of this one question. 1. Alcohol raises NADH, and that drains the raw materials gluconeogenesis needs. 2. Glycogen only covers you for about a day. After that, gluconeogenesis is the only thing keeping your sugar up. 3. Muscle glycogen can't raise blood sugar at all because it has no glucose 6-phosphatase. And the big one, the low sugar, the high ketones, the piled up lactate, that's not a list to memorize. It's one network pushed at one point. Find the single lever, and every symptom just falls out of it.
If those pieces just clicked into one picture, that's the whole point of this channel.
So subscribe, and next time we'll take another question apart the very same way. One lever, one network. See you there.